This is the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. It's June 2nd, 2025, and it is 5 p.m. And we'll begin with a call to order by roll call. Mary Hartman, I know, is not here. Mike Lawson.
Here.
Rich Feely.
Here.
Linda Escobedo.
Present.
Carrie LaFleur.
Here.
Matt Johnson.
Present.
And Keith Bergman, present. So first, welcome to Matt at his first regular meeting. He was with us at our housing roundtable meeting, as was the whole board. So welcome aboard. And we also have with us Elisa and Paul and Linda Miller, Ed Larner, and we will be joined by Shelley Gehring from MHP. She'll be here around 5:30. So the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes, and there are two sets of minutes to be approved for May 5th regular meeting and the May 19th roundtable. And I wonder if there is.
Move approval of both as submitted.
Second.
Okay, move approval by Rich. Second by Mike. Is there discussion?
I only
right,
had one comment, which was on the roundtable. There was a side comment made there that seemed more like I don't know, your own perspective, Keith, about that the goal of the 200 would keep the, SHI limited at bay. And I just feel like, well, we're already kind of in a place where if the 40B is approved that we've got, that, it's well off the chart for limit, that we're unlikely to hit it regardless. I don't think that's really the reason to pursue the 200 additional units. At least
No.
it just seemed like, it was a comment.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the reason we pursue the 200 limit, but it's the reason why we can work on increasing from 7% to 10% affordability, because we've got that other thing covered.
We are free from that, but I think the way
we've got that other thing covered.
It was phrased, and I guess I could get to the exact phrasing, but it was more or less that, by doing this, we would further keep the limit at bay. And I don't know that that's really the rationale. So that was my comment. I was just like, cut that
I do know it's what I said.
Oh,
so
okay. If it's what you said, then I think it's the minutes then.
But the point's well taken. Sometimes the language to a limited degree comes from AI, but that's ME. So
okay. All right.
So,
in that case, I withdraw my comment. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. And so on the motion to approve both sets, we'll do a roll call. Mike?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Linda?
Hi.
Carrie?
Thumbs up. From
Thumbs up.
That's a sign. Yeah, see, I was looking down and looking up. Matt?
Aye.
And Keith, aye. So those are approved unanimously. Thank you. And next is annual election of officers, which the trust bylaw section 4 provides that the trustees shall elect officers annually, consisting of a chair, vice chair, and clerk. So and we do it once a year. We usually do it about a month sooner, but we wait till after. We typically wait till after town meeting, which is where we are now, since town meeting just occurred. So I wonder if there's anyone who wants to make any nominations for. We'll start with chair.
Keith, if you're
Nominate you,
I'd
Keith.
like to nominate you.
I'll second that.
Okay, nomination by Mike, second by Rich to reappoint me as chair. Are there further nominations for chair? All right, so I'll treat that as a motion and a second to appoint, elect Keith Bergman as chair for 1 year. And on that, let's take a roll call vote. Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Carrie,
Another thumbs up.
Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. So that is unanimous. Thank you. Thanks all very much. Next is to elect a vice chair. And our practice has been to elect the sitting member of the select board who is here representing that board. And so I would propose to nominate Mary Hartman for vice chair.
Seconded.
Are there any further nominations for vice chair? Okay. And so that is motion by Keith, second by Matt. And on that motion to elect Mary Hartman as vice chair, we'll do another roll call vote. Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. Did I miss anybody? All right. And lastly, we have a position of clerk, and it's been Mike, but I'll invite nominations for clerk.
I nominate Mike, particularly, if you continue to keep the minutes, which you do, and they're usually comprehensive, so. I guess Mike only has to fill in if we have to have a meeting and you're not there, Keith.
I'll be
So-
on.
Mike's the designated survivor, I think, so.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Linda. Okay, on that, on the motion for Mike to be clerk for 1 year, Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
Aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. So all of those pass unanimously. Well, thank you. That we're keeping the band together for another year. So thank you. Next item is funding for the trust, and a couple of things occur here. One is that, and by the way, I'm assuming that this is our last meeting that we'll be holding in June, and that our next meeting might be sometime in July. So I wanted to have a procedural vote in place where if when the Community Preservation Committee finalizes the form of its grant agreements for the coming year, that we have an authorizing vote of the trust for the chair to execute the agreement with the town for CPA funds. I'm imagining that the form of the grant agreement will be similar, but not the same as what we signed a year ago, primarily because the CPA funds in the past have been limited to 80% of area median income. This year, from the vote of town meeting for community housing, it will be up to 100% of AMI. So that will be a language change. Also, the dollar amount is different. Last year it was $500,000. This year it will be $740,000. So in order to have that authorizing vote in place, I would entertain a motion to authorize the chair to execute a grant agreement
So
with the
moved.
town of Concord for $740,000 in FY '26 CPA funds for community housing purposes pursuant to Article 47 of the 2025 annual town meeting, subject to approval as to form by town council.
Second?
Okay, so I'm going to treat that as a motion by Linda.
Then I'll second.
And a second by,
Okay, I thought I heard Mike move it, but he moved it before it was stated, so.
did he? Okay, see, again, when I'm looking down, I can't, I don't
It's
see
all
what's
right.
on.
It was
Here.
Rich
Mike,
that
did you move it?
seconded.
I think it
Okay.
was me, but anyhow,
Oh, sorry, I got it wrong.
then
Okay. So I can replay the tape later, but
That's
for
all
right
right.
now,
That's all
now
right.
That's
We'll go
fine.
with Linda with, yeah.
are we okay with Linda and Rich?
yep,
Okay, thank you. So on that motion, let's do a roll call vote. Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
aye.
Linda,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. So that is approved unanimously as well. The next item doesn't need a vote, but I thought we should put it out there, and that is the fiscal 27 grant application will be due before we know it. It'll be due by the end of December, September 12th. And I want to remind us in our recent discussions about goal setting, we've looked at for the long term, setting a goal of adopting a real estate transfer fee, building permit surcharge to fund the trust. But in the short term, would be looking to request 25% of the community preservation's total annual revenues each year, say for the next 3 years at least. So to the extent that's what we've been talking about, what we'd like to do, I'd make the suggestion that we check in with our roundtable partners about that, and that to do so, we may want to. We just had a roundtable in May, but they're quarterly, and 3 months from May is August, and it might be appropriate for us to think about an August roundtable so that we can discuss what to make sure that our roundtable partners are in sync with us on us putting that kind of money in. And we'll have plenty of other things to talk about as well then. So any reaction to the
Well, I
approach of
assume our application would be for around 500,000.
I'm assuming that if the revenues, interesting question here, that if there are from a Community Preservation Committee meeting that I just watched, there seemed to be over $1 million in balances or a fund balance that had not been spent before or would be up for appropriation. I'm unclear if I think our vote was meant to mean, or our discussion was meant to mean that if the annual new revenues come in at a number, and typically it's, whether it's 1.8 million, 1.9, that we've applied for $500,000 typically, and I'm thinking that we continue to do that. Liz?
Hi, everybody. I am glad to convene the Housing Roundtable for August. So in fact, Elisa and I talked about that very topic today.
Oh, awesome.
And we thought, or I thought that was probably be late August. Timing wise, this is a tricky time of year, but but I think that mid-August, it's difficult. Mid-July is too early. So really in the latter half of August is what I was thinking. We'll circle around with some dates and all that, but I think it would be probably the last week of August kind of thing, when people are returning home, but knowing that we wouldn't get everybody. And I think that it might be easiest to do it on Zoom if people are still away, versus trying to engineer the in-person, if that's acceptable to you all here.
I think that's a good approach. Late August, I think would work. That's still a couple of weeks before the CPA application. I think it's generally known what we're likely to apply for, and we can be, reaching out, and many of us are attending each other's meetings in the meantime. So yeah, I think that would be great to have to go forward with the August.
Right, so look for a request for availability coming up within the month.
Great.
Could I suggest after the 19th? Because we should then know whether the Bog Mahal was approved by the town election. And I think that, if it does, that leaves quite a bit of unallocated money on the table. And I think we ought to have a discussion about whether we go for some of that as well as the 25%.
After the April 19th special town election.
The August
Yeah,
19th.
yeah. So late. I meant to say August. I said April. So late August seems to make sense along those lines too. So great. Very good. Any other comments? All right, and I'm sure we'll have updates on at the roundtable of some of the things that we'll be touching bases on at this meeting as well. Great. Linda.
Yeah, thank you. Keith, I heard your comment of labeling the 500K, but I don't think we should assume that would represent 25%. So in other words, that number could be higher.
Well, 500,000 may be higher. Yeah, that could be higher than 25%.
No, the amount that's available.
The amount, yeah. Those will be good things to focus on when we meet in August. And there, in fact, for those able to, there may be further discussion about it at the Community Preservation Committee meeting that starts tonight at 7, where they've had some discussion in the past and will continue discussion on it. Matt?
If I may
Yeah,
follow
it
up.
just seems
Oh,
like
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, Linda, and then Matt.
Just a quick follow-up for clarification. So I was responding to your comment about the specificity of the 500,000. So
Yes.
you're agreeing that we would not be that specific at this point?
I would agree that we'll stick with 25% as a placeholder until we come to a considered judgment with our roundtable partners on what a dollar amount is that we should,
Thanks for that.
that we would have their support to apply for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just speculating based upon the run rate of, for new funding that the CPC tends to have. They tend to have a budget of around 2 mil. And so a quarter of that, 500,000. But I think in addition to clarifying what the actual available amounts are likely to be for this year, we need to also look at the unspent funds and understand whether any of those could be categorized or recategorized so that, they could be dedicated to affordable housing purposes. So those are, I think, the two key questions that we need to get clarity on before our housing roundtable strategy discussion.
I agree.
Thank you. I agree with that. Thank you. Any further discussion on that? All right, on to state legislation to fund the trust. And I wonder if Rich Feely has an update on what the Aloha Coalition is up to.
Now, this is our legislature. Nothing happens quickly. The hearings on the transfer fee bills are now expected sometime in September. We will be trying to get out people to lobby their reps. Problem is, of course, that ours are quite supportive to begin with. And the discussions with the chair, the bills have been assigned to the Revenue Committee. The discussions with Jamie Eldridge were, of course, very positive, and the new chair from the House side, Representative Madaro, seems to be fairly supportive. So there may be some specific requests for, showing up at stuff at the State House in September. But other than that, not much is happening.
Thanks, Rich. Any other comments or questions? All right, so we'll continue to monitor that. Next item has been requested by Rich for this agenda, New England Deaconess contribution to the town per the Article 46 Memorandum of Agreement. So Rich, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I don't think I need to go into a lot of background. People will remember that when Newbury Court revised their presentation, they offered a 10% quote attainable. Matt came up with a very good formula for defining, how you deal with the fact that people are both buying in and paying rent and what's attainable. The town decided they didn't want to get into that. So basically, Newbury Court put $20,000 per unit on the table as a buyout to any town enforced affordability requirement. Our concern is it wouldn't be the first time that money was allocated for affordable housing in some sort of settlement and didn't really generate anything. So I would like to propose a motion that we request the select board to make a determination that the monies received under the development agreement with Newbury Court be used for affordable housing for elders through CMAHT. I'm very concerned that if we don't do that now, this money isn't going to come in for 4 or 5 years. It's paid as the facility is built and occupied. I can see the language in the agreement says only that it has to be used for healthcare assistance or housing for people over 55. So there's nothing in the agreement that specifically limits it to housing. And I won't get into what I am concerned about the alternative is, but I think you can guess. So anyhow, that's the motion, that we request the select board to allocate the Newbury Court development agreement proceeds to CMAHT for affordable housing for the elderly. That could be assisted living, it could be something else. It could be money that goes into the CHTC to help people stay in their, make renovations that help elders stay in their homes.
Is there a second to Rich's motion?
I'll second.
Second by Matt. Matt, did you want to speak on it?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one other point that the select board chair had agreed, and I think we got general agreement from the select board that they are putting this topic on their June 30th agenda. So this isn't going to be, if we pass this motion, it's not like we're just shooting in the dark. We're contributing to the discussion of a scheduled agenda item at the select board.
I didn't realize they'd committed to June 30th, but I know they'd committed to do it this summer. Maybe Carrie knows.
I'll recognize Carrie.
I think they did commit to June 30. I know this was said at the select board meeting, but I just want to say it here again, that a vote of the select board is for that year. It's tied to that year. This select board can't vote in perpetuity that these funds would be directed as they come in year to year. Something
Didn't we
like that.
establish a policy? It seems to me we've established policies that, run for many years. There's the policy about involving housing in discussions of land acquisitions. There's the policy about plowing private roads, et cetera. I mean, there are policies
Yeah,
that run year to year. I
Yeah.
realize you can't appropriate money.
Well, but what one board giveth, another board can taketh away. It's just a policy that
Yeah.
the board in power can amend.
Well, that's what I'm looking for, is something that puts the select board on record as saying this is what we want to do with it when that money starts to come in.
I had a question for Carrie, whether would the select board be establishing a special gift fund to put these monies in, as opposed to it being like a general revenue that is appropriated somehow by town meeting?
yeah, I think a gift fund is the appropriate mechanism.
Right. So that it would be by a vote of the board of the select board at some later point that would take the money out for a particular of the fund.
Yes,
It goes into the fund for a specific purpose under the care, custody, and control of the select board, and then the select board would vote on the purpose as they take it out. It sounds
Yeah.
like.
and so I guess, and I'm sorry, I'm thinking on the fly. I think if we use that model, following how we set up other gift funds, when we take the gift in, we record any restrictions on the use of that, and that stays with the gift fund. So that might be a way to put a little more permanence to the designation of these funds based on when the gift fund is established.
Harry, would it be established now or only when the first payments are made?
I think it could be established now.
Then, I mean, that's certainly what I'd like to see is, that fund be limited to affordable housing for the elderly. Recognize that obviously there's no money in it, but if that fund's going to be set up, that's what we want.
Yeah, maybe somebody will give $1 to hold the fund.
I volunteer the foundation to give, I volunteer the foundation to give you at least $1, Carrie.
Okay.
Other thoughts about this topic that we're discussing?
So it seems to me that the request to the select board would also include a definition of affordable, along with perhaps suggesting the restriction on the gift fund.
I would want it to be, well, actually, if you think we need it, 80 or 100% of AMI is actually pretty good for retired folks, since the AMI figures are driven by people who are still in their high earning years. I mean, I could live with that. Paul's got his hand up.
Yeah, Paul?
Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm not going to talk with any specificity here, but I think the general idea of you guys putting together a motion to tee up the discussion as specific as you want, I think that's a really good idea. And I do think it's on the agenda. I haven't seen the final agenda. There are a lot of topics that are floating around, but I think this one is probably going to be on there, but I can't guarantee it. I haven't seen the agenda yet. But I think the motion is very much a good thing to do.
Thank you, Select Board Member Bowen. So, thank you, Paul. Stephanie?
Yeah, and maybe I just need everybody to step back a minute. Is the $20,000 firm already, or is that in negotiation now?
It's essentially firm.
Is it? Okay. I wasn't sure if that was still a negotiable number. Thanks.
They phrase it a different way, but it works out to 20,000 per unit.
Yeah.
actually-
What's the
Actually
total?
built.
Yeah. And what's the total? Do we know, or at least estimated?
We don't know exactly how many units they're going to build, but it's looking like 180 to 190. So it would be somewhere on the order of 2.8 to
3.6.
3.6, excuse me, 3.6 to 3.8.
And is there another entity in town who is thinking that that money is valuable for their priorities too?
Well, I can see, I mean, I saw some evidence. Well, I should raise my hand. I defer to Matt.
Well, you made the motion, so it's totally okay to respond, but
Yeah, I mean, I think there's evidence that people would like to be able to do things like reduce the town's payment to Council on Aging. I mean, not reduce the budget, but use some of the money for that. It is for the assistance of elders. I could see other things happening.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of that. There's a phrase or there around sort of healthcare costs too, and those.
Yeah, which the money will disappear immediately.
Exactly. Thank you.
yeah, I was just
Yeah.
going to say that the discussion already took place. There was certainly a member or two of the select board that was indicating that they liked the idea of potentially redirecting the funds to healthcare or just tax relief. So, that is another point of view that was expressed, which is why I think Rich is pressing on this issue that, we really, if even if it's not possible to bind the select board to such a thing, if we establish a precedent and is even better, a gift fund that is already designated for that, it's probably best as memories tend to, fade over time. So.
Yeah.
I think that Rich's motion to have the funds, requesting that the funds be deposited in the Concord Municipal Affordable Housing Trust, it has enough of a limiting factor that I mean, where I think if it qualifies for something that the trust can spend money on, then that's going to be affordable housing by whatever specific definition the town is dealing with at the point that the money's coming in. So, I'd be fine with not further defining affordable housing beyond something that the Affordable Housing Trust is dealing with. That will have a definition at some point. Might even say 150% of AMI if we get our state legislation for the real estate transfer fee. Matt?
Yeah, my only concern is a technical one that Carrie would probably know about, which is she had suggested a gift fund as the mechanism for this. And so I don't know if there's any problem with using the housing trust as the, keeper of the funds, or whether it needs to go to a gift account, which then could designate the funds to the housing trust. Further, while our definition of our trust is exclusively affordable housing purposes, it doesn't have the further limit on senior use. So again, I'm not sure if that is a problem or if it could be overcome. So I don't know these technicalities. I just wanted to raise it as a possible problem.
Thoughts, Carrie? I'm thinking that the select board in establishing a gift fund could designate who spends the money. I mean, in my experience, sometimes it's been a fund that was for the police department. A donor was making that the select board establishes it, but it's subject to the police chief, for example. And it's I'm comfortable with having it be the select board, but to limit the use to be to the Affordable Housing Trust, because I think it's important for the future select board to be in the loop on the money that's coming in.
I agree, Keith.
Any, yeah.
I think having it flow, having the gift flow through a gift fund is one way to be able to secure a long-term purpose for these funds. And whether it stays in the gift fund and on an annual basis, the trust makes a request for that money, or, you know, something else. I think having it flow through the gift fund gives it a layer of protection, if you will, to keep it for housing versus an operational expense.
That could even be included in the creation of the gift fund.
Yeah.
Language that restricts the use of the funds.
Yeah, and
And
it
then-
has to be restricted to elders as well, because that's the
Right.
Newbury Court requirement.
Yeah,
And then
we,
annual,
yeah, and I think that certainly the trust can live with language from that funds from a particular source are more specific than other funds that we get, and we can certainly we keep track of those differences. Some of the money we have is for up to 120% of AMI, some for up to 100, some for up to 80%, and we're mindful of those as we're charging those amounts for what we do. All right, are we ready for a vote?
I
So
just wondered
on,
if I could restate the motion.
You want me to restate it with the gift fund idea?
Yeah, well, I've typed up one, but
Okay, go ahead, Matt.
So move that the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust urge the select board to designate funds collected from New England Deaconess Association for senior affordable housing healthcare economic assistance as described in the 2025 memorandum agreement executed with the town to be deposited in a fund that is specifically designated for affordable housing purposes for seniors.
a
Second,
special gift fund.
Okay.
Did you say a special gift fund?
Yeah, special gift fund that is specifically designated for affordable housing assistance for seniors.
second,
How are we defining seniors?
At 55 years and older.
55 and over, it was included
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
memorandum.
Deaconess defined
that's
it as
in the MOA,
55
but,
and older.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I'm going to ask Matt to email that to me.
Sure.
So I have it, but that is our motion by Matt and a second by Rich. I think procedurally, do I have the prior movers and the mover and second? Are you fine
Yes,
with the
I-
substitution of this?
absolutely.
Okay. All right, so on Matt's motion, roll call vote. Mike,
Yes,
Rich,
Yes,
Linda,
Aye.
Harry,
Yes,
Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. Did I miss anybody? All right, so that passes unanimously. I'm going to ask, I want to thank Rich for putting this on the agenda and for this discussion. And could I ask either Rich or Matt to draft our letter to the select board that would communicate this vote? You can draft it for my signature,
yep,
Sure.
but I would appreciate your assistance in drafting it.
yeah. Matt, could you just copy me when you send the language of the motion to.
I'll probably send you my draft letter. You could look at it and then,
Great, even better.
okay? Sure.
Very good. Okay, thanks very much. Next is another procedural matter that we do once a year, and it's a fiscal year-end report to the select board pursuant to Section 7 of the trust bylaw. And I circulated a draft of a report. I should mention that I'm getting an updated figure from the town's finance department on interest income. Our last information was from April. I will get some additional amount this week, and I'll adjust the fund balance as a result of that. But I wonder if and I did have a question from Mike about about in what format should communicate how the additional 740,000 shows up in our fund balance. So while this is a report for the fiscal year ending June 30, I'm also going to include a little table that compares our ending balance on June 30, which would be 2,061,000 versus our FY26 starting balance, which would be 2.8 million, because we'd be adding in the 740,000. So that's not forgotten about. And I wonder if there might be a motion to authorize the chair to submit a year-end report to the select board.
So moved.
Second,
Motion by Mike, second by Rich. Is there discussion? All right, on that motion, Mike,
Aye.
Rich,
aye.
Linda,
I,
Kerry,
I,
Matt,
Aye.
and Keith, aye. So that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. I don't see Shelley Gehring from MHP on the call yet. So let us go to updates on the housing production plan.
I am here.
Oh, you are. It says iPad, so I didn't know who that was.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, and it's Shelley. So thanks very much for being here. And I want to thank you, Shelley, for attending not only our May 19th Concord Housing Roundtable, but also a meeting that was held at the end of May in the Concord Townhouse, when all of the housing trusts in the Magic subregion of MAPC got together in person for a first time, and we'll look forward to having other get-togethers with those teams. So thanks very much. Because you are both on the same call at the same time, we will collectively congratulate one of MHP's latest housing heroes, Liz Rust, for her accolade and award. Congratulations. And kudos to MHP for finally getting around to recognizing Liz, because she's been working. Her work helped the town of Concord itself get its Housing Hero Award back in 2016.
Wow.
And to and as well as many others, the work of many others to achieve housing has been because of Liz. So we're so glad that Liz can receive that recognition.
Thank you, Keith.
So Shelley, you have had sent us a list of potential sites that we might want to go and visit in other communities, and maybe we can talk about that. And I should mention as well, we have not had a meeting of our ad hoc committee for a while. I've got I think we last met on April 28th. I've got sets of minutes from, I'm sorry, no, it was only May 14th. We did meet on May 14th. We have two sets of minutes now from April 28th and May 14th for that ad hoc committee to approve. And I'm hoping that we can schedule a meeting sometime a virtual meeting sometime in July for that group. So we'll follow that up. And in the meantime, we perhaps can plan some site visits. I don't know if any of them are on Nantucket, but we can, but I'm here. So welcome back, Shelley.
So I'd put just 3 potential projects that are in the general, not too far, although Cambridge is probably a bit of a schlep for you, but Acton and Hudson, and then one in Cambridge. And I don't know if did everyone receive the Word document where it outlines those 3 projects? I don't know if that was
Yes.
sent out or not.
Yeah, it was sent out with the packet
Okay.
for this meeting, yes.
So unfortunately, I left the office downtown today without my laptop. I left it down there. So that's why I'm on an iPad, and I actually forgot I was on an iPad. So I forgot that you wouldn't know my name, see my name on that. So I don't have access to any of my files, but there are I threw out just a few possibilities if you'd like to, if it's interesting, because it sounds like your group is wanting to invest in, you're wanting to do community supported affordable housing and invest in a little bit larger kind of developments, not huge, but a little bit bigger. And I thought that getting on site, if we could decide on a development that seemed interesting to you, and I could reach out to the developer or the property manager and see if they would be willing to give a bit of a tour to help you understand how the projects came to be. Great. So one is 40
I think I
units.
found the list.
Yep,
Yeah.
thank you. So the one in Cambridge is where it's some historic preservation, and then they added additional development in the back behind of that, capstone communities, so 40 units. Then there's the one in Acton that's 31 units, that's age restricted, senior housing development there. And then the Packard Street Commons is a new development that just came online in Hudson, that Metro West Collaborative Development did. It's 40 units, and that was came about because of a community RFP. It was municipal land, and the trust contributed to that one. So, and what I think is interesting about this one is the design. If you can see where you are, that along the street, there's a few townhouse style, and then there's a larger building behind it, adding up to 40 units. So I thought that was a little bit of an interesting design. So just wanted to have the conversation with you if you're interested in a site visit and learning more about a particular development and really kind of digging in, if that seems useful as you're moving forward with your work in Concord.
Very good, thanks. Liz, you have your hand raised?
Yep. So I just wanted to mention that the one in Acton, that was developed by Common Ground, and one of their main developer partners management is Rick Lefferts, who also is the chair of the Maynard Affordable Housing Trust. So that I think that we know him well. I meet with him frequently. I'm glad to make that introduction and help scheduling if that's useful.
Okay. Thank you. How are others feeling?
Terry?
So
Terry?
thanks. Just a quick question. Are these what size lots are these properties built on? Would they be similar to the 15 units per, the MBTA community zoning? So we're looking at 3 to 4 acres, or are these much larger? properties, and I'm asking just because we're doing an inventory of town-owned properties, and I just would like to be able to keep things in mind.
So I didn't do any of that analysis. I can't say for sure.
Okay,
It was more the idea of helping your trust to get on site of a development that's not huge, but kind of smallish mid-size. And
Yeah.
these all received significant state and federal resources. They probably were all LIHTC, although I don't know about the Acton one, but it's the size where it probably has low-income housing tax credits. And so it just is what some of what I've been hearing from the trust is that you're kind of interested in using your local funds to really leverage a lot of other resources. So these are developments that will do some of that. The Cambridge one, I think it probably has more income diversity than the other two that are low income. They probably are 60% is probably, but I think the Cambridge one might have a little bit more mix. But it's fully affordable developments. So just to give you a view that you maybe don't have as much of yet in Cambridge, in Concord, excuse me.
I can say that, if I can, sorry,
Mhm.
the one in Acton is low-income housing tax credits. It's for seniors and it's on 0.88 acres.
I think that all of them are going to be less than the 3 or 4 acres that you said, because even the Hudson one is, it's not dense, but like it's not really spread out.
Right.
And the Cambridge one most definitely is less than that.
Yeah. So I wonder how any of these compare to, say, a real life example that we have that we're looking at, and it's on our agenda later this meeting, that we're considering 91B Main Street surplus state property, 1.4 acres, about half of it is wet, I guess.
Yeah.
And that we can only, the preliminary analysis indicates we can only fit 4 units on it, in two units or 2 duplexes, for which, and I did share with MHP the preliminary analysis that's on our agenda tonight, that Elisa and Liz are here to talk to us about. And just to sort of put it in context, how do these examples you're giving us from elsewhere compare to say what we could or couldn't do with the specifics of the 91B Main Street?
Yeah, so I think that Karsten, for those of you who are at Karsten's presentation a while ago, that we got into some that there just isn't the same kind of subsidy for homeownership development that there is for rentals. So the sites that I'm suggesting as possibilities to tour, it's just a very different model because they're affordable. I'm sorry, they're rental housing. There's more subsidy resources. They're larger developments, so you're spreading costs over more units. When you do homeownership, there's just less of the subsidy. You're going to need more more local public subsidy. And because it's a small development of 4 units, then you have certain costs that you need for all developments, but you don't have as many units to spread the cost over. So the cost per unit is oftentimes higher when you have fewer units to spread those costs over. So it's like apples and oranges. They're just very different kind of developments.
Yeah. So, and I know that we've had discussions here in the goal setting of wanting to have our local funds go further. And so so it looks like that some of the sites that you've identified from other communities are examples, at least, of how trust funds can go further if you're attracting significant state funding, and that contrasts with a smaller project, perhaps involving ownership, where the cost is higher. And we're just coming off of launching what was a very complicated project, very worthwhile, the 5-unit Assabet River Homes project. 2 of those units were rentals operated by the Housing Authority. We just closed on the deal. We just had a closing on June, that was finalized June 5th, where an existing 2-family structure went to the Housing Authority's LLC. The other 3 units that the property was is owned by the community, the Concord Housing Development Corporation. The 3 new units, which will be ownership, being constructed by Habitat. The trust is the main funder of that. And just the amount of complications that we had to get into, creation of documents and so forth, I think we took a deep breath at the end and said, gee, it's too bad we only did 5 units for this, for the amount of work that we went into it. You know, maybe, you know, we should have started out with more, you know, more units than the 5 that we had. So Liz Rust and then Matt Johnson.
I can say that the 91B, and I know we'll talk about that, is voted to be workforce housing, which is also a constraint in terms of getting other funds. It's also constrained by the number of bedrooms that the sewer folks would allow. So that's really where the number of units comes from, 9 bedrooms total. So however you want to stack them up, however you want to design them in. And so those are where the bigger constraints, I mean, ownership, rental, maybe, but the bigger constraints were the 9 bedrooms and workforce housing. So that's going to box you into local only subsidies. And I'll just say on Assabet River Bluff, there was a number of proposals for more units, and all parties voted to reduce to what it is today. That was all that would be accepted by the select board, by the town, and the neighbors. So it wasn't for lack of proposals for more number of units.
I was an outlier in those discussions, trying to get more units on that site.
Right.
So
And so this proposal is not to say one or the other, because your goals and your strategies have identified some home ownership up to 150% AMI. It's more of like how will you get there? It's not one or the other. But your goals are up to 200 units, and it is a mix of affordability. And so I just wanted to propose doing this kind of tour, but only if you're interested, if you feel like you can make the time for it. It would be meeting at the site, and I wouldn't ask the developer or the project, the management team more than like 45 minutes or an hour to tour and to learn about it. So it's not a huge commitment, but I mean, you have to drive there and et cetera. So, and it would be during the day just because of their time. It likely would not be an evening thing. So just wanting to know what your thoughts are on that. And if one particular development or community seems, if you're more drawn to that than the other.
Yeah, I like the ideas of Acton and Hudson, at least initially, perhaps, because we could, you know, they're close by. We might even be able to do them one after another, or one before and one after lunch, however it works. And I think it would be good for us to see how a team works, and how, you know, for a deal that's put together that does attract significant state money, what does that look like? Because maybe it wasn't what we were thinking of doing, but it could help us recognize what we would need to do if we don't want to have to pay for everything ourselves.
And the Hudson one, the trust was actually actively engaged in that as well.
Yeah, well, then I'd certainly like to see that.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I know the planning staff in both of those towns, and they're great people, and be great to see what they're doing.
So I may reach out to Liz to talk about the possibility of, I actually was thinking just one, but if you would be interested in doing both, we could try to piggyback them. Is that something?
Yeah,
that others are interested into, not just a couple of you, but like a group of you at least would be interested? Yeah.
I would be.
Okay, and then is it something that's feasible over the summer, or is that with schedules, is that too much? Too hard with vacations and stuff? Could it be possible to do it in the summer?
It's possible. I'm in Concord in July.
Okay, I'll reach out to you, Liz, and we can maybe chat about it. Is that okay?
Great.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then the next thing is just for the ad hoc group to schedule time, but I don't know if you want to do that via email, Keith, or do you want to?
Yeah, let's see. Maybe what we could do, we've got three of us, Rich, Stephanie, and myself, of the 5-member committee. I'm wondering if the three of us could offer a date or figure out a date that works for Shelley right now sometime. Does July work at all for
For me, it
virtual?
could. I'm gonna need my phone, I'm sorry.
Early July, mid to late July is a problem for me.
Okay.
Early July is better for me too, Rich.
Yeah, early July works for me. Sometime the week of the 7th.
Yeah.
I've got meetings on Wednesday, but maybe Tuesday or Thursday.
Yeah, one of those could work for me.
Yeah.
I think I'd prefer Thursday, but I could make Tuesday work.
Okay, I'd actually prefer the 10th too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say
Okay.
tentatively July 10th and oh wait, so this is for our ad hoc meeting.
Yeah, for the ad hoc meeting. Yeah.
Okay,
So, and how we've been meeting at either 4 o'clock or 11 a.m., which is better.
Either for me.
I'd prefer 11.
Yeah,
Awesome.
11 a.m. Okay, so
And then you want
July.
Mary can do that.
Good for me.
Okay. All right, very good. And
appreciate that.
thank you.
Yep, okay,
Thanks.
so I'll call Liz and we'll work on trying to put together a couple site visits for the team.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye. Next is discussion on the housing production plan. Any update on the housing production plan informational update that the Regional Housing Services is working on, maybe a target of presenting to the August roundtable?
Oh, I think I could do that.
Yeah.
It's pretty high up there, but hasn't quite made it to that top yet. We have the data part compared to the last one, and then it's just the narrative for the few strategies. So it's close, and I apologize. Aspet
No
River
problem.
Bluff
Well,
took a little out of me.
Assabet River Bluff took about 6 months longer than any of us thought
Yeah,
it
it was
might.
a lot of work. A lot of
So,
work. I
very
am
good, and thanks.
becoming an insurance expert, though, I have to say.
Yeah, sadly.
Exactly.
Right.
For sure on that.
All right, very good. So an August roundtable, and if maybe if we could see it at our see a draft before the roundtable, if that happens to be ready, or that.
I'll send it to you as soon as I get the first draft out, Keith.
Great. Thanks so much. Very good. Next is an update on Assabet River homes, and Liz, what would you like to share with us about
I wanted to
what all we've been
count the
doing?
number of pages that got recorded, but I didn't quite get to that. Keith passed around like all the documents. So it's just incredible how complicated a project it was, and it might be worth looking at, is this the model? Hope not, right? Like what made this more complicated? Certainly the leasing strategy with the trust, I mean, that could be something that's always part of the model going forward. But that should be evaluated because of the complexity that that brings into the process. But it seemed to be the only way that the trust funds could be provided through the CHDC, who's a pass-through in essence, and conveying the property to the developer who's developing it for sale. So, that's going to be a common process. If you're going to use CHDC as a pass-through for the trust funds. So that's a complexity. The other part that is a one-off is the housing authority property there. And that certainly took some time with the capital improvements and like that whole thing. So anyway, it might be worth it when things settle down to a little post-project review of looking at the process and seeing if that's in fact the model of this kind of development going forward.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was a great project that was there are plenty of bragging rights for the project because of its location next to open space and next to a river and within walking distance from a commuter rail station. But if only I'd join Matt in saying if only it were more affordable units, then that might make it worthwhile. But it stands on its own as an excellent project, and and the people who live there are going to be very fortunate indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you on that with the more units. But when that conversation was going on, it was very clear and strong that there were to be no more units, that if the project was going to happen, it was going to happen with these 5 units. And even a strong proposal for 7 units was soundly dismissed by the parties. So I don't know what, when I hear that and I hear you, I mean, the CHDC really advocated and
I
where
know
it
that
ended up,
they
I think
did.
we have to understand the reality of the
Yeah.
community feeling about density, infill density is strong. And so this was the only way the project could happen. Everyone wanted the project to happen because the housing needed to happen in order for the open space to happen. But
They needed the housing dollars because they didn't have enough money to just from
correct.
open space
Correct.
purposes.
And it drove up the per unit housing costs. And so then it had to be habitat to kind of keep that low. And I mean, it all worked out, but
Right.
it is the community, all of the community that wanted the project at that low density. Right. So maybe there were people who advocated for other perspectives, but in the end, those voices didn't carry the way.
Yeah. Thanks, Liz. And none of this discussion doesn't take anything away from all the work that went into making this project on the agreed upon terms happen. So
there's a pushback for density. So so it drives up the cost, and that's just the downside of the low density. And that's okay, but they go hand in hand.
Right. Rich and then Carrie.
Just a quick reminder that we wanted more density too, as did Matt before he was on our board. But we compromised because the alternative, if we hadn't done that, is, it was zoned for housing, single family, we would have had 7 McMansions. So, I wish it hadn't been so complex, but, the alternative was worse.
Thanks. Carrie?
I just want to say, I think that project is a huge win. And I think it's a huge win because from my perspective, and I've only been here for 9 years, so not nearly as long as most people on this call. This was this was an opportunity for various groups and various constituencies to come together to meet multiple objectives. And I think for that reason, it's a win. I know we all on this call would have liked to see more housing, gotten more bang for the buck, but it was a win. It was a win. It was a win all day long, and put it in the minutes. It was a win. It was a great project where people come together, and I don't feel there are a lot of good people in this town working really hard on things that matter to them. And from my seat, this was one where a lot of people came together and everybody just worked together to make this happen. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't mean to
Thanks,
imply
Karen.
that it wasn't a win, and certainly the parties coming together. I just wanted to be clear that that there were these factors that came in to have the project be so yeah. So it's hard when oh, I wish there were more units, but it is the win that it is, right?
Right. Very good. Thanks. Thanks for that. And just to say it, 2 of those 5 units are already on the subsidized housing inventory. The 2 rental units, the 2 this time, 2 years from now, the 3 ownership units will all be on. 2 are scheduled to be completed during calendar 2026, and the 3rd one in calendar 2027. So that's so that will have been, I think, about 6 years from when the idea first occurred. The negotiating was taking place in 2021. So that's not all that long, because this town has spent longer than that on projects that didn't get built. So very good. Next item then, 91B Main Street, and we've had a little discussion about it, but I'd invite Elisa and Liz to bring us up to date on this project.
Hi, yes. So this is the 91B Main Street project, and I know that you're all familiar with it. But just recapping that it is the state-owned property that we have done a site plan for 2 duplex units, so 4 residential units, and this is envisioned to be an ownership opportunity. And it is geared towards workforce housing at 120% of AMI. And part of that, I know there was a question about why is it at 150% AMI, and that is due to the use of the ARPA funds that would be dedicated towards this. If the town goes forward with it, there is a certain restriction on how on the affordability component. So as we were discussing this, you have seen that. Oh, you have the site plan up, great. So I asked Liz if, as we're evaluating this as a potential purchase, what is the feasibility behind this? So I know you have that in your as part of your materials. But, and Liz can speak to this a little bit more, but she did a feasibility analysis of the cost to develop the site. And that includes the acquisition costs, which we have received a proposal from MassDOT, who is the owner of that property, that they would sell the property to the town for $620,000. So that also includes the development costs, would include construction, acquisition, and other development costs such as sewer tie-in plans and permitting. And we also included a a fee, which would be the developer fee in terms of if we did do an RFP, it's typical, and this is what I think that the Mass Housing Partnership has talked to you all about, is that oftentimes there is a local subsidy that is sort of required for the developer to be able to pencil out the development costs and have a little bit of profit as well, because these developers they're not nonprofit, so they do, go into these types of deals, with the anticipation they are going to have some type of profit from it. So this is the memo that Liz worked on. And I think now I'll just have Liz, if you want to speak to this a little bit more and kind of go through the analysis, that would be great.
Sure. Now, this is put together using current figures. So, of course, when this all happens, it's going to be many years from now, and things are going to be different in terms of construction costs. The construction cost number there was given by Dan Gainsborough, and you're all familiar with him, and I could use his name, I think, here. So, someone who actually does this for their living. And it's not public construction, so it wasn't assumed to be that. It was assumed to be a private development. And then other development costs. And then, as Elisa mentioned, the developers are going to make a profit. So we singled that out as a different cost. I mean, no, they don't do this for free. And then where would you get the money, right? So $3.9 million. So, some money's been earmarked for this from the ARPA. And then the proceeds, which would be the sales price of the units at 120% using current parameters. So of course, those are going to vary depending on when it actually happens, but leaving about $1.5 million, if you will, for grants, CPA, trust, donations, like other money, other local funds. And coming out at about $1 million per unit. Now, of the $1 million per unit, I mean, that's a pretty high number, right? But you're paying for the land, and then the construction is a big chunk there, and you can see how the other pieces come out. I think the construction at 643, that seems to be sort of what people are talking about. I think that nothing is being constructed, sadly, for under $500,000 per unit. In terms of what we hear. And then, of course, this is going to be years from now. So how to go forward, you couldn't really bank on these numbers, but it gives you some ballpark of what we're talking about, or what this kind of feasibility pro forma would look like with these reasonable estimates.
Thanks, Liz. Matt, you have your hand up?
Well, I just was thinking back to the sewerage comment earlier about there being a total of 9 bedrooms that could be constructed in the lot. And, when I look at the 1,600 square feet per unit, if they're 2-bedroom units, those are very large 2-bedroom units, right?
So you could probably maybe get them down, at 120% AMI, tend to be a little bit larger because they're going to be, a little bit pricier. But yeah,
Yeah, I just think it's such a cost driver, right? So I just think if there's a way to kind of sharpen the pencil on that one row, it could make a big impact.
I mean, you're going to be, I don't know, 1,500, 1,400.
Yeah, even 1,500 might, help. But you're right. I mean, we're still talking about a very large subsidy
Yeah,
required.
and it's years away too, years away. So, certainly these are going to shift. And I don't know that that's enough to make a decision on how to go forward. I think one thing also to consider, because you don't know about these numbers and what they would look like, and it's hard to know, you say, well, it's too expensive to go forward, but maybe there's value in acquiring the land And then just waiting to see how things pan out, right? Like, because, you know, there it is, and there's some value in that, and it's nice to get some land to do that. But, you know, it'd be interesting to see what the trust feels might be some of the options with this feasibility information, I guess.
Thanks.
Thanks. Rich?
Yeah, along the lines that Matt started here, the number that strikes me is the developer's profit. Now, if the developer were buying the land, paying the permitting costs and taking the risk that these things can be sold at a particular price, I can see them penciling in that profit. If we buy the land, if we pay the permitting costs, and we basically, you know, agree to pay the difference between what 150% homeowner can pay and the actual cost, that seems a little high. In other words, CMAHT and CHTC are taking most of the financial risk here, except maybe the actual risk of construction costs once you sign a contract. So my only question, and I don't need an answer now, is going forward, if we make it clear that we're taking most of the risks, can we get the developer to do this for, you know, maybe more like, you know, $50,000 or $75,000 a unit instead of $125,000 a unit in their fees?
I think the developer still is taking the, I mean, it depends what the model is, but, you know, they're taking all the construction risk. You know, the conveyance, using the model that was just done with Aspet River Bluff, they, you know, the property goes to the developer for construction and for sale. So the permitting, would be the benefit, you know, the acquisition and permitting, sure, but everything else the developer would be responsible for.
Well, could we get creative and think about ways that, without, you know, involving too many lawyers, that they don't have to pay for the land until they deliver the units or something like that. Again, obviously, I understand if the developer is carrying 700,000 in land costs for 2 or 3 years, then that drives up the fee.
Hmm. I think that all of those are great ideas, but at this level of planning, it's probably not the time to be
Yeah, no,
doing that, you know, and that would be to sort of sharpen the pencil, like as, you know, like, you know, you probably want to plan for just some general amount of money at
yeah,
this
I mean, I think
level of
it's,
initial, but that's up to, you know, up to you
yeah,
all.
the subsidy here is $500,000 a unit.
Mhm.
It would be nice if we could get it down to 350 or 4, that's all.
Mhm.
Is something that strikes me is that, and I know that the town staff's been working on this piece of property for some time. It's been, I think, I've been aware of this for at least 5 years when Marcia was talking about pursuing it, and um, the and it didn't seem like the state was all that interested in it was the town that was pushing to acquire the property. It wasn't the state pushing us. You got to do it or else. And so I'm just wondering if the circumstance is. I am just not aware of what the governor's list looks like. That she's doing an assessment of surplus state properties that could be used for housing. I don't even know if this one is on it. Apart from the fact that we raised it. I don't know if the disposition of the state is, well, we'll offer it to the town first if you want to do affordable housing, and if you don't, they'll just put it out to bid and it would be developed as housing. So, Lisa?
Oh, I just wanted to mention, I did go to the state, and Carrie was there also. They did have an event, I believe it was last Monday, where they previewed all the surplus state lands that they were trying to open up for developers to develop housing, different types of housing. And this this particular piece of property, 91B Main Street, didn't appear to be on their list that they were promoting actively. And it looks like Carrie has something to add on to that. But this was, I mean, essentially, this has been a conversation with the state back and forth for, I believe, a number of years. And when I first started a few months ago, I did reach out to the state, and this is kind of where we came to this $620,000 number, because that is based on their appraisal.
Right.
A year.
And that was good to have. That was a hard and fast number where I know we had competing appraisals a couple of years ago. The trust was mostly interested in the property if the town could acquire it for significantly below market rate, which we now know is not the case. So, Carrie?
So Elisa, I think you had mentioned at one point that the property is owned by MassDOT and was acquired with federal highway funds, and in order for the state to sell it for something less than market value, there was some federal approval that was needed, and it didn't seem like the climate was ripe for any federal approval. So I'm not even sure that this property is something that the governor has control over at this point in time. But I actually mentioned this property to the lieutenant governor as she was hurrying across the room from one end to the other, and it didn't seem this address didn't ring any bells with her, so I don't think it's something that they're looking at right now.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm wondering is if we take a pass on this and keep looking for a property that's a better size, and we're not going to have to look for long, because there's the land use matrix initiative and MCI Concord, which might have more opportunities for our limited funds to be used in ways that could really help produce higher densities, because the town is going to be in a very organized fashion looking at what the best place is to put housing and other uses. So, and I know that the federal ARPA funds that we have must be spent by December of 2026, but that the language says that the preference or the priority for the use of those funds would be this location. I would suggest that if this location is not as favorable as we'd want it to be in order to proceed with the project, because I'm not in favor of land banking it. I'm not in favor of buying it either on our behalf or giving the CHDC the money to purchase it for it to sit there, because I think it will sit there anyway, because the state won't be moved to do anything with it either. So I'm thinking we might want to pass on this, but to look hard at where we, from the things we learned from MHP and what our neighbors are doing, and see what opportunities arise from the land use matrix and from MCI of how we could better use our funds. Rich?
Yeah, I'd keep it on the list, maybe not for housing. I can't think of a location that would be better for a public service facility. It's incredibly centrally located, and it's right on Route 2. I don't know if it's big enough, but half, 3/4 of an acre, you could build a pretty good firehouse and police station. So maybe we keep it on the list, but not for housing.
Yeah, you could build it on stilts, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all wet there.
Well,
Mike?
the front half isn't wet.
No.
Yeah.
Keith, I have a very hard stop at 6:30. Are there any more
Okay.
votes you need to take?
Let's see, only to adjourn. So I
If
think
I
we've taken the
defer,
policy
will you
votes
still
tonight.
have a quorum?
Yeah, yes, we will. We'll still have 4 on the call, but I think that once I think that we will be okay.
It's the
Mike,
chair's
but I would like
prerogative to
would like
adjourn the
to end the
meeting if
meeting
we
as soon as we
complete our
can.
agenda.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Matt.
It's the chair's prerogative to adjourn our meeting if we've finished our agenda.
Yeah. We have items here, updates on MCI Concord, land use working group, subsidized housing inventory. I think we've talked about those at our recent meetings, and we can hang tight on them until our meeting in July. So,
Carrie's got
I'll,
her hand up.
yeah, Carrie.
Well, I'm just a little concerned about adjourning the meeting, leaving the question about whether or not this group is interested in 91B Main
Okay.
Street out there, because, you know, as you mentioned, Keith, we do have a requirement to expend those funds by 12/31/26. We have identified this site for this funding, and based on the climate in Washington, we are concerned about making changes. So I'd rather have as much time as possible to look at how we might reprogram that funding if
Yes.
this doesn't seem to be the right project at the right time.
Yeah, I would be, I guess the suggestion I would make is at our meeting in July, or at our next meeting, when we have hopefully a full board, including Mary Hartman, that if we are of the mind that we should pass on this and identify another property, let's put that on our next agenda. I'm of the opinion right now that this is not the property that we should pursue. I don't know if if we have a majority of the board that feels likewise.
If we buy it, do we have to use it for housing, or could the town use it for something else? I mean,
Well, if we
we'd have to get
buy
the
it,
affordable housing money
we
back.
buy it, and if we use the ARPA funds, it has to be for housing.
Okay,
It's too small for any of our needs.
okay.
Yeah.
So, is there anyone who'd like to make a motion on this?
I'm
Right.
torn because 4 units is better than nothing, and if we could get them for 400,000 a unit, it's for 4 families that live in this town that wouldn't otherwise. So,
And we would have very little money left when we're done.
right?
That this would be what we're doing for this would be all that we're doing for the next 3 years. And I think we should do more. I think we should try to do more.
Matt?
Personally, I feel like we have other sites that are likely to come before us with the Peabody site that, you know, is a much more buildable site. And even the nuclear metals site, you know, that could be housing that wouldn't have those heavy wetlands or, you know, the land acquisition costs necessarily that we're seeing here. And that could produce more family-oriented units. One of my biggest concerns is only 9 bedrooms. They're going to be small units. So I think there might be better opportunities for the use of these funds. Now, how can we utilize those ARPA funds in time? That's the key thing. So.
Well, we'll need to purchase something.
I mean,
So what-
I take as a given what Carrie just said, that this doesn't work for the other major projects that the town has to do. So, I mean, I'm not so wedded to the idea of doing it here if we can find a way to spend it to get housing. I mean, can we do another 930 Main or something like that with the 500,000? Buy a small house and fix it up?
I was very concerned to see this week a new house listed on, or a new house, a very old house listed on Losbrook Road. 1,300 square feet, 785,000, that is unrenovated. So it's a significant lift to buy down even a very modest house today.
Yeah, but if you did workforce, you could still recover 400, right? So maybe we're looking at
Yeah,
300.
but this house would need either significant work or tear down or replacement with a duplex or something. Anyway, I'm just saying the economics are very
Yeah,
tough.
I accept Keith's argument that
And
it's
sorry, yeah,
in units.
this is taking a lot longer and turning into a much broader discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, so within the next month, Elisa, we won't buy that property. I don't think there would be significant progress made on the state's part anyway. Elisa and I can put our heads together. I mean, we do have, Elisa, we have the farm property.
I don't think that will work for the,
You
oh,
don't
you're
think that-
talking a Barrett's Mill Farm?
You don't think that would work for workforce housing?
Um,
You could do something in Harrington with it.
Has to be on the SA, has to be
That's
on
on
the,
the-
Yeah.
it has to be deed restricted as affordable in order to spend our money.
All right, well, we'll think about it over the next
Okay.
however many weeks before the next meeting.
Okay, very good. So, and should we pick a time for our next meeting? Well, we're here. We just picked an ad hoc committee meeting for Thursday, the 10th of July at 11 a.m. I don't know if that day is a good time for us to
Do
meet.
that. 5 o'clock on the 10th?
Would 5 o'clock on the 10th work? Works for me.
I'm on vacation that week, but I'm sure you would have a quorum.
Okay. And you could send Megan
Yeah. I
to
can
vote
send
in your
that in.
behalf. Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay. All right. So we'll do, we're saying Thursday, July 10th at 5 p.m. And we'll check and make sure that that works for everybody. All right. Any public comment? I didn't think so. All right. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Carrie. On the motion to adjourn, Rich,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Matt. And
He's
Keith-
muted, but he said yes.
I said,
Keith, aye.
I read
Okay,
his
so
lips.
we are adjourned at 6:38 p.m.